Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Marie-Beth and I am the Allergy Actress, and this is Allergy Actress Cooking, and today obviously we are doing French macarons, which is different from macaroons, double O. Macaroons are a coconut based, it's like eggs and sugar and shredded coconut, and that's what those are. Those are totally different than French macarons. I would like to say that this is a very delicate recipe and it takes some special equipment. So, some of the things you're gonna need. You will need 4 baking sheets, and if you have Silpat mats, great. If you don't, I just use 2 pieces of parchment paper. The 2 pieces is really important because you don't want the base of the macarons to get too hot, because that ruins them. So I know from experience. Okay, and then you will need a stand mixer. You're gonna need a convection setting on your oven. Now most ovens have that nowadays. You will need a flour sifter, or you can use a fine mesh sieve. Today we're gonna be using the fine mesh sieve. A couple other things you'll need, I'm gonna just show you. You will need a 16-inch pastry bag and a 1/4 inch, see how big this guy is? It's really big. A 1/4 inch cake tip. And if you do any smaller than that, you're gonna have really tiny macarons and they're gonna burn really easily. So you want the 1/4 inch tip. I can't say the company name, but there is a company and the number of this tip is number 1A. And the company starts with W. Okay. Okay, so first ingredient in the macaron is sugar. Confectioner sugar to be exact. Now, I am allergic to corn, so I have to get a very specific confectioner sugar that is made with tapioca starch instead of corn starch. Make sure you keep a lookout for that. You can find it at your local allergy-friendly grocery store. I will list the brand in the recipe that I include with this video. All right, and that's 1 3/4 cups of that confectioner sugar. The next thing is the almond meal. Now this you can make yourself. I did not, I purchased it from the store, but you can make almond meal yourself. It's dense and it soaks up a lot of liquids, so and it's not flour, so you cannot replace this with flour. I'm so sorry you guys, you cannot replace almond meal with flour. So if you are allergic to either almonds or eggs, this recipe is not for you. But the almond flour, you can make it yourself. By blanching almonds, peeling off the peel, and then just food process it. And don't do it too much. Make it look like this, not like peanut butter, okay? You don't have to blanch it. You can keep the skins on, but I like how that looks better. So anyway, this is 1 cup of almond meal, also called almond flour, even though it's not actually flour. Okay, so then the next thing you have is the eggs, like I was saying. Now I know sometimes you can substitute eggs with like applesauce or flaxseed meal. Not the case in this recipe. The eggs are necessary to make the meringue. So it is 3 egg whites at room temperature. So now the next thing you have is just straight up, really super fine white sugar. You can use coconut sugar for this. You would need to run that, because coconut sugar has a little bit of a larger grain. You would need to run it through a spice grinder to make it like fine like this is, or you can just use regular old white cane sugar. And that is 1/4 cup. All right. And then you have cream of tartar. This is just a very little bit of it. You're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and that is the ingredient that helps those eggs get up to those stiff peaks. Obviously, most good recipes have some salt. Again, this is my favorite kind of salt, the pink Himalayan salt, and it's just a pinch of salt. So here I put about a 1/4 teaspoon, but it's really just a pinch, sorry. 1/4 teaspoon or a pinch. And always remember salt from above so that it spreads out more evenly. And last but not least, we are making mint chocolate macaron today. So I'm using peppermint extract. And you need about 1/2 teaspoon. It's depending on the flavor. I like a stronger peppermint flavor, so I use 1/2 teaspoon. If you don't like a strong mint flavor, you can use a 1/4 teaspoon. And the last thing that goes in after your batter is made is actually food coloring. So these are the only types of food coloring I can use because most food coloring has either soy or corn in it. Usually corn syrup, sometimes cornstarch, sometimes soy lecithin. These are natural food colors made just from the juices of the actual vegetables and fruits themselves. So we're going to be making the macarons green today, so I'm combining yellow with blue. So the last ingredient that you need is the filling for the macaron, and I am choosing to make a chocolate mint macaron today, so I am actually choosing to use the avocado chocolate mousse that I have made in another video. So if you want to know how to make this avocado chocolate mousse, go to that video and learn how to make it. It's so simple, you guys. It's like totally easy. Other fillings that you can use, you could use Nutella if you can have that. You can use jam, you can use ganache, all of that great stuff. But for today's purposes, I wanted it to be dairy-free and I wanted it to be soy-free, and so we made that. What's up, guys? We are on the first step of the French macaron. Okay, so what you need to do is take your almond meal flour and combine it with your confectioner sugar. Stir it up just a little bit so that it's kind of mixed. And then, as you can see, it's gonna be a little bit lumpy. So what you do to fix that and make it more refined is you get this guy, this little sieve thing, and you pour it in. And you do it, I wouldn't do it all at once because you might get overwhelmed. So we do a little bit at a time. And you wanna make sure that you kind of do this, where you're pushing it, and then you can see how it's like, oh, look, it's snowing, you guys. Oh, snow in California. I miss it. I miss it. Hey, shout out to my Colorado peeps, all my snow bunnies. All right, so this is kind of how you do it, and you just continue this way until it's all in the bowl through the sieve, okay? So I'm gonna finish doing this, and while I finish doing this, I am going to, well, I'm just gonna say, hey, I'll see you on the flip side for step number 2. This is a really cool part. This is where we're gonna do the eggs, and they turn into soft peaks, and then they turn into stiff peaks. So first, we're gonna show you the soft peaks and how that works. So you need a stand mixer with the whisk attachment. You're gonna put your 3 egg whites in, and then you're going to put in the cream of tartar. Cream of tartar. I'm sorry, guys. I have so much fun. I'm not sorry. All right, and then you put your salt in. And again, that's a pinch, so I don't know if I'm going to put all of that in. That's good enough, I think. And then I'm going to whisk this just a little bit before I actually whisk it, because the cream of tartar kind of all fell on one side. And that's not good. Okay, so then you're going to turn it on to high. It takes less than a minute, you guys. So we're gonna turn it on to high, make it into soft peaks. Oh, it's going. It's so cool, you guys. Oh! And done. This is what soft peaks looks like, people. Okay, y'all, once you reach soft peaks, you want to immediately put in your white sugar, not the confectioner sugar, the white cane sugar. And you're gonna put a 1/4 cup in there, and you're gonna turn it back on, and you're gonna put it on high for about 4 to 5 minutes until it reaches stiff peaks. Now you'll know it's at stiff peaks when it turns white, it's grown in volume, and it's shiny. Okay guys, so here is the tricky step. You have your stiff peaks, and then you're gonna have your flour that you mix together, the confectioner sugar and the almond meal. So you wanna have your peppermint flavoring and your food coloring close by as well, because this is all gonna have to go pretty quick. So what you wanna do is you wanna take your meringue, your eggs, your stiff peaks as we like to call them, and drop them into, see how, they're so much fun. I love stiff peaks. Okay, so you drop it in here. Now when I learned how to make these macarons, it said keep it in this bowl, but I'll tell you what, I found that I was over folding when I put the almond flour and kept it on the bottom. So what I do is I just do that, and then I dump it back into the bowl so that it's kind of mixed together like this. because it's a lot easier to have the flour on top when you fold. So when you're folding, do it very gently, and you want to make sure that you're going a quarter turn at a time so that you're not over folding. That is so key, you guys, the over folding thing. Believe me, I went through 4 rounds of macaron before I got it correct the first time, because I was just over folding, and then they still taste good, but they're just flat, you know, and they don't have that little foot that you like to see. So as you're folding, you want to make sure that you see the flour starting to kind of mix in with the meringue. Once it's like kind of the consistency of toothpaste, I would say, that is your cue to start adding the food and the peppermint, the food coloring and the peppermint. So it's like about like that. It's not totally mixed in yet, but if you wait any longer, it will get too overfolded. And especially because you're adding more liquid, that will cause overfolding. So especially with these natural food colorings, that's a lot of blue, you guys. Might be a little bit more blue than green. We'll just add lots of yellow too. Okay, and so then you continue folding until the color is mixed in. Look at that! That looks like a science experiment. That's so cool. Okay, and just keep on folding, and you fold until the almond meal is completely disappeared, and the mix becomes kind of, don't make it soupy, I will say that. It's a little sticky, and it will kind of come off of your spatula in a bit of a ribbon shape. So that's what I say. So just make sure you continue turning. You don't want it to be totally soupy, because again, you won't get the macaroon shape that you want. It'll still taste good, but it just won't have all the airiness in it that it needs. So we're getting really close to it being totally done here. And then once you have folded all of this, you want to move very quickly to the next step, which is what I'm going to show you next. And that is getting it into the piping bag. Okay, so this is about what you want it to look like. And then that goes into the piping bag. And so next what you want to get is your baking sheets and your piping bag, and we will do that next step. As you can see, I got monster hands while I was doing the food coloring, so that's a lot of fun. So I found the easiest way to do the piping bag is to actually fold it up like this so the tip is up, because if you're holding it like this and you put stuff in, bloop, it's gonna come right out, okay? So make like a little, fold the top down, make a little cup with your hand, make sure the tip is pointing up, and then start scooping it into the bag, and this way you can kind of scoop it off of the spatula so that it's not, because it's sticky, okay? So if you don't scoop it off the spatula, it'll come right back out of that bag, and then you have goopy sticky mess everywhere. So we just keep on doing this until the bag is full of the green monster looking type item. It kind of looks like Oscar the Grouch a little bit. Well, it's a little lighter green, I guess. Maybe it's more like a springtime green. Ooh, this is perfect for spring, you guys. I love it. I could do this for like Easter or something, you know? This would be awesome. Okay, so we're almost done scooping in. Yes! I love it. Okay, so the macarons, I have to tell you this, macarons have a really interesting history. They started in the Renaissance era, but they didn't come from France. I'll tell you that now. They started in Syria and they were just like almond pastries. They were not like the macarons that we know now. Macaron, sorry, that we know now. And it's because Syria had like this huge almond crop. And then because of the fall of Constantinople, it came over to Europe, and it went to Italy first. And that's where the word macaron came from, but it wasn't the French pronunciation. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm piping, okay? So you want to pipe about 1.25 inches, little circle thing. So, and you straight up and down, and then boop, like that. So while I'm doing this, and it's gonna have air bubbles, FYI, y'all. They're supposed to have air bubbles, so, okay. And if you haven't piped before, well, welcome to piping. This is very fun. Okay, so leave about 1 inch of space between each cookie, because they will flatten out just a tiny bit. They're gonna flatten out a ton. And also you wanna make sure that you are pretty even with your sizing. Don't make one huge one and then one tiny one, okay? So I do like a full swirl and then up, and then full swirl and then up. So back to where they came from. So then they ended up in France with Louis XIV when he got married to Maria Theresa. Then after that, they totally liked the macaroons, and it became like a royal thing, like they had it all the time. So that's that. Okay, so this is what it looks like, you guys. The next step, and you're gonna obviously do all the trays. The next step that you wanna do is you want to leave it out in the open air for 15 minutes up to an hour, because they need to stiffen a little bit, and so that when you touch them, they're no longer sticky, like sticks to your finger. When it doesn't stick to your finger anymore, that's when you've got it, okay? One thing before you set these out to kind of dry out, you wanna make sure that you firmly tap them. So you can see these little air bubbles have kind of popped, and I'll show you again with this one. You wanna just go boom, boom, and then the air bubbles kind of pop. You wanna make sure that those air bubbles get out as much as possible. I see another one there, so I'm gonna hit it again. There we go, it popped. And then set them out to dry for about 15 minutes up to 1 hour, depending on the humidity of where you live. Okay guys, so next step is we're gonna put the macarons in a preheated oven. Remember, it has to be at the convection setting of 300. And you're going to then bake it for about, well, it's between 13 and like 18 minutes, depending on your oven. So I would just hang around your oven and make sure that you're watching. You're gonna see them puff up, and then they're gonna get a little, what looks like a little foot or like a little ridge around the bottoms. So, and I'll show you what that looks like obviously when they are baked. And that's that. So 300 degrees, convection setting, 13 to 18 minutes, and then we'll move to the next step. Okay, you guys, so now the macarons have baked, and I wanna show you, this is what a single macaron looks like. Now, as you can see, it's flattened out a little bit, but it puffed up at the same time. And then there's this little like foot thing, little skirt foot thing that goes around it. And it's, you can hear that, it's hard to the touch, but underneath it'll be hard, but there's soft on the inside. That's what you want. You've overcooked it if it's not soft on the inside. So, or at least chewy on the inside. So then what you wanna do is you're gonna have all these layers of just single macaroons. So then you wanna pair up the ones that actually fit together fairly well. And you know, when they flatten out, sometimes they don't all go in the same shape. So you wanna try to pair them up as best you can. And then the next step is to bring out whatever filling you're gonna use. Now today, remember I talked about we are going to use the avocado chocolate mousse, which is another episode. You can see how to make this in another episode, but I will include the recipe for it below. And what you do is you just go like that, and it's so good. It's easier to spread if the mousse has been chilled a bit, but it's not necessary. And then do a very thin layer, because if you do a gomp, then it'll squish out the sides. And then that's all she wrote. Seriously, that's ta-da, there's the macaroon. So then you put it on the pretty plate, and that's that. So I'm gonna finish putting the filling inside of these, and then we will get to the tasting. Ah. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Heaven. It's heaven, y'all. Oh my gosh. The peppermint comes through like, oh, it's so nice. It just punches you in the face a little bit. And it's just a hint of chocolate because you put a thin layer. It's a hint of that chocolate mousse. And it's nice and chewy on the inside and that crunch on the outside, as you can see. I want to finish this whole thing. So before I do that, I will say thank you for coming with me on this journey of learning how to make French macaroons. This is Mary Beth Eversole, the Allergy actress, signing off for now. What's up, guys? It is subclip for coconut flour. Now I want to show you something. Coconut flour, if you can't find it in the store, it's so easy to make. Just get shredded coconut and grind it in a spice grinder till it looks like that. It's super easy. This one's a little bit, as you can tell, it's a little bit more fluffy and a little bit more refined. And then this one is more shredded, like shredded coconut. The cool thing about coconut flour is it's used in quite a few recipes, but you can substitute it for almond flour and grain flours. You just have to make sure that you make it less. So if you have a cup of almond flour, you're gonna wanna use like a 1/4 cup of coconut flour. And you're also gonna have to adjust your liquids in your eggs. Now I've done a recipe before where I just had to adjust the liquids and not the eggs. Just keep in mind that coconut flour is super absorbent, okay? So, yeah, there you go, coconut flour, woohoo!